I work with this clinic, the Om Prakash HIV/AIDS Clinic, Delhi, India. Everybody in this photograph at one time was HIV positive. When I received this photograph, I simply placed the photograph inside my instrument, side by side the photograph of HIV. Now remember, this is informational. The information of HIV was identified in their force field on the photograph. The instrument not only can identify HIV, but once it does, it brings the HIV signature to a state of chaos. The HIV virus no longer exists at the informational field. Now, as a result, the people say they feel better. They no longer have symptoms of HIV.
Hi, Envisionairs. Welcome to the EnvisionAir Podcast. This is the podcast where we envision living our best lives by exploring everyday topics related to health, wealth, community, and love. This podcast is for information purposes only and should not be considered to be medical, legal, tax, financial, or other professional advice.
This podcast does not encourage or endorse any illegal activity.
We are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liability that may arise from the information in this podcast.
The views explored in the podcast may not always be those of the host.
On today's episode, we're going to be focusing on the health pillar of the podcast, as we're going to be diving into the fascinating world of scalar energy and the potential it has to heal our bodies and our minds. We're joined by Tom Paladino, a researcher and pioneer in the scalar energy world. Tom has dedicated his career to exploring the uses and the benefits of scalar light, building upon the groundbreaking work of Nikola Tesla. Today, we're going to be discussing what exactly is scalar light and how does it differ from electromagnetic energy, as well as the historical development of this very intriguing field. Tom is also going to be sharing with us insights into the benefits of using scalar light to heal our bodies. He's going to also address any skepticism that I'm sure some listeners might have. And he's going to be offering practical advice as to how listeners can start incorporating scalar light into their daily lives. So I'm very excited that Tom has agreed to join us on the EnvisionAir Podcast. So a very, very warm welcome, Tom. Thank you for being on the podcast today.
It's my honor. Thank you so much.
Good. All right. Well, I think people would want to know, what exactly is scalar light? What is it exactly?
That's a fair question. Scalar light, it's the light of the stars. We're not working with electricity. Scalar light, scalar energy is the light, the primal force of the universe. It's the light that gives energy to the stars. And that's important because we're at the very top of creation. This is the very first cause of creation. Now, Nikola Tesla, the great scientist, realized that, and he actually was able to harness the energy of the stars through instrumentation. That's what I'm doing today. I've copied the work of Tesla and other scientists to capture this energy of the stars. So to titillate your audience, this is free energy, clean energy. You don't need an infrastructure to operate it then. And there is no pollution. It's perfect energy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe it might help because obviously I think some people are maybe operating in a world where they don't necessarily understand that energy can be harnessed in a way because it's so either 2D or 3D even, right? So I think when I've done a little bit of research on this topic, there was conversations about like 5D, the 5D dimensional world and everything. So I think maybe can we go back to that sort of basic of like, what are we traditionally taught about energy? And then how, because I think the breakthroughs are coming at us also getting to higher consciousness of how the universe works.
That's a good point. So academia today only speaks of one energy, electromagnetic energy, electricity and magnetism. Well, Tesla discovered that there's two energies. Notably, Tesla began his career with electromagnetic energy, but specifically AC electricity, which is wonderful. He gave us the AC generation. But later in his life, Tesla discovered scalar energy from stars. He called it radiant energy, which is far superior to AC electricity. And later in his life, Tesla wanted the world to convert, if you will, to radiant energy, this, if you will, non-physical energy that does not need a telephone pole, this non-physical energy that you can just extract from the atmosphere. Mm-hmm. Well, he was close to giving the world the free energy of the stars, but powerful forces stood in his way. Now, keep in mind, if Tesla's correct, I say he is, if you can harness energy from the stars, that's free energy with a free infrastructure. And that goes against the grain of the economic world.
Right.
So this is the, if you will, the special, if you will, ability of scalar energy to alleviate so much human suffering. The ability of a free energy society without pollution, not having to worry about limited resources, addressing scarcity on a fundamental level. All of this is a game changer. This technology, scalar technology, will change the world.
Wow.
And that's my contention. That's what I want to do. I want to reintroduce Tesla's work and let's change the world.
Wow. I love that as a mission. That's great. So, okay, going back to the electromagnetic. So, and also how you explained it. So Tesla, two energies he discovered. The first one at the beginning of his career was the AC electricity, which is, I think, what we now continue to use. Like that is the energy that's, power plants and all those sort of more traditional energy sources. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. Now, and then, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
I'm going to demonstrate. I'm in my laboratory for a reason. This is a scalar light instrument.
Okay.
This is a Tesla instrument. It's modeled off of Tesla and another scientist by the name of Hieronymus. And I'm using Tesla coils. Those two Tesla coils are manifesting this free energy right now. It's very powerful. It's so powerful, if I hold a light bulb close to the instrument, the light bulb will illuminate.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing.
So that's an indication of scalar energy. Now, the energy is so strong, here's another experiment, that nothing can stop this energy. The energy is from the sun and the stars. Now, if I take a wooden board and try and impede the energy, wooden board cannot stop the energy.
Wow. Sorry, for listeners that are listening only, not watching on YouTube, we can see the light up. So go check out the episode on YouTube. But that's fascinating. That is, I mean, Tom literally held up the light bulb just next to the Tesla coils, and all of a sudden the light bulb goes on, which is fascinating.
Thank you. Now, that's just, if you will, a thumbnail sketch of what scalar energy can do. So if I can illuminate a light bulb in my hand, eventually I can light up the city. And that's where we're going. This is a miniature star. Thank you for seeing. And we're still at its infancy, but the day is coming that God will give me the wisdom and I'll be able to light up a building. And
wow.
That's the path that I'm on. Now, specifically today, I want to introduce the world, your group in particular, to a new way of looking at health. Not biological health, informational health. What do I mean by that? This instrument works with photographs of people. That's right, photographs. I never work with people because I'm not at the physical level, I'm on the non-physical level. If we were working with Newtonian science, we would have to work at that physical level. Working with Tesla science, we work with information. So my work is informational. Now, in order for me to access a person's informational field, all I need is their photograph. Now, before I get into this, Nicole and I are having a conversation. I see your image, my computer. Obviously, you're not in my computer, it's your image. Mm-hmm. So when people email me their photograph, I work with their image. Just like we're having a conversation through a Zoom call, we can have a conversation through a person's photograph.
Wow.
We can communicate on the energetic level. Now, why do I want to work on this level of energy and not biologically? When you work with energy, energy never makes a mistake. Energy is not subject to a bad day. Energy is not subject to a headache. or a biochemical reaction. So when I work with people working with their photographs, there's no downside. There's no adverse side effect.
That's really fascinating.
Thank you. I'll actually take their photograph, which is their bilocated version.
Yeah.
People can bilocate to my laboratory, and I place it in the instrument. Now, I am experiencing scalar energy. That is a lot of scalar energy, and I actually feel it. It's like has a tingling sensation to my brain, to my mind.
Right.
That photograph is now allowing me to access my aura or my information field.
Wow.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you a couple questions on that. So again, for the listeners listening only, Tom has put a photo of himself next to the Tesla coils,
Yep.
and he is saying that he's feeling the effects immediately. Is that correct? Yes.
Yep.
And I guess you don't necessarily, do you take part in this sort of effect, or is it essentially just using the Tesla coils and putting the Tesla coils just next to it? Or do you have to play an active role as well?
Do not have to play an active role. Frequently, I treat dogs, cats, pets, and those animals do not realize that they're being treated. Now, if you want to play an active role, simply pray and ask for a healing. The key to my work is keeping it at that level of energy. Nothing can impede the energy. I just demonstrated how the energy would pass through a wooden board. What's the point here? Working with energy, nothing can impede the process. The process is flawless. The process never makes a mistake. Energy never makes a mistake. Now, so when I place my photograph inside the instrument, I can perform certain functions and it never makes a mistake. For instance, if I wanted to eradicate the signature of a virus, I would take a photograph of a virus and place it inside the instrument with my photograph. This is H1N1. If I had that virus, by locating the virus through a photograph, which is an energy field, I could eradicate the energy field of H1N1 in my informational field. Never working at the biological field. So if you and I can have a conversation by way of computers, why can't I have a conversation by way of photographs of microbes? I do. I communicate with this microbe. And in so doing, I tell my informational field to find the energy of H1N1 and to bring the energy to a state of chaos. After I work with people with this process, I call it a microbial cleanse, a pathogenic cleanse. People no longer have that presence of the virus. People say they feel better. They no longer have the symptoms of the virus. Can I explain that? I can explain it as far as saying that whatever signature can be detected on a photograph can negate it, including a virus. And if we can negate a virus, then it ceases to exist as an informational body.
Okay, wait. So let's go. There's so many questions, Tom. It's fascinating. Okay, so I just want to go back to the coils because I'm very intrigued by these coils. First of all, what are they? How do they harness energy, or how do they harness the informational or energetic? How do they harness the thing that helps? And also, what where do you get one of these? Can anyone get one of these, or are these like?
These are custom built. So I'm going to explain. I'm pointing to a vacuum tube. The vacuum tube sets up the scalar environment.
Okay.
It's no longer electricity. It's if you will, we're no longer working in the electromagnetic environment. The vacuum tube presents this other force field of scalar energy.
Okay.
It is sent over to the capacitor. The capacitor stores it, and then the capacitor can pulse it to the Tesla coils.
Okay.
So this entire operation, the instrument probably measures a good 6 feet. And it's rather heavy. It's rather heavy. They're custom built instruments. The key is this: when you're anywhere close to this instrument, you're in a scalar energy force field. This is crucial. You're no longer in an electromagnetic force field. So the physics inside that instrument are different than the physics in your bedroom or your living room or at the office.
Wow.
This is a different dimension. That's why I can achieve this feat. I can connect with a person in the quantum dimension if I am in the quantum dimension. How do I set up a quantum scalar energy dimension? With a quantum instrument. So this instrument produces a local scalar energy environment in which I look at disease by way of information, and I eradicate the disease signature on the photograph.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give the audience a for instance. If you're an architect, before you build anything, you have plans. You have a computer-aided design. You have architectural things, a template, instructions. So prior to the biological body is the informational body. If you're an architect, you start with information. You have architectural plans, and then you have the physical edifice, the building. Likewise, why don't we start with the informational fields, the architectural plans of the soul, mind, and body before we try to solve the problems at the physical plane? It is my contention that so much of illness can be eradicated, corrected at the informational level, not at the biological level. To be clear, these instruments do not work with people. I never work at a biochemical state level. I work at the level of information which supersedes everything.
Yeah, fascinating. So, okay, question on the photos. So how do the photos capture the informational signature?
That's peculiar to a scalar energy environment. Now, I'm not being coy with you. If I place my photograph in a refrigerator, nothing's going to happen.
Right.
Because that refrigerator is an electromagnetic environment. When I place my photograph inside a scalar energy instrument, it automatically connects. Now, remember my earlier statement, once you're in the scalar energy environment, you can distribute information without a satellite. The infrastructure pre-exists. The stars pre-exist. So you have to consider we're working in a different reality. It's a different dimension. Some people call that an altered universe or a wormhole. Call it what you will. There's two dimensions. There's two laws of physics. When you're working with the laws of scalar energy, you're in a different dimension, and everything behaves differently than that of an electromagnetic environment.
Right.
As soon as I place my photograph inside the instrument, or anybody's photograph, I connect with their aura, or their informational field, or their force field. Again, we're always at the informational level. We're not at the chemical level. And once I connect with a person's aura, it's instantaneous communication. It's instantaneous information. And if I say, well, if the energy ascertains that that individual has an autoimmune disease, the information will look at the signature of autoimmune disease, the information of autoimmune disease, and negate the signature of autoimmune disease.
Right. And I heard in one of your an interview you did, several, some of the interesting, I guess, case studies where you have actually helped to heal people from viruses such as herpes and HIV. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yes, and that's true and accurate, but always through a person's photograph and always by this process. I'm going to give the audience a for instance. I'm going to show a photograph from an HIV/AIDS clinic in Delhi, India. I've worked with this clinic, the Om Prakash HIV/AIDS clinic, Delhi, India. Everybody in this photograph at one time was HIV positive. When I received this photograph, I simply placed the photograph inside my instrument, side by side the photograph of HIV. Now remember, this is informational. The information of HIV was identified in their force field on the photograph. The instrument not only can identify HIV, but once it does, it brings the HIV signature to a state of chaos. The HIV virus no longer exists at the informational field. Now, as a result, the people say they feel better. They no longer have symptoms of HIV. Can I prove the cause and effect relationship with people? No, because I'm not working physically with people.
Yeah.
I can only prove my work at the informational level. I cannot prove my work at the biochemical level.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, many of these people came back after I worked with them. They would share their PCR tests.
Wow.
And that's one of the PCR tests.
And yeah, and it says, sorry for those listening, the PCR test says that the HIV virus is not detected. So, yeah. Wow.
So I have to rely upon testimonies of people because there's no science to prove what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I repeat that. This is avant-garde. Nobody's ever duplicated my instrument. I'm the only one in the world with this technology, so I don't have any peers. Nobody's ever proven or disproven my work. They will not prove or disprove my work until they imitate, until they, if you will, copy my procedure. Well, that's not on the horizon in the near future.
Yeah.
So how do I prove this? Only anecdotally, only by way of word of mouth testimonies, only by how people feel. This cannot be proven by a rigorous scientific protocol. Just cannot.
Yeah. Right. It's all anecdotal. Gotcha.
Yes.
So going back to your machine, it's so intriguing. Do you have a name for it?
The Ark. I call it the Ark of
The
the
Ark.
Covenant.
Okay.
I have a Christian background. I believe the Ark of the Covenant mentioned in the Bible is a scalar energy instrument.
Right.
And that's what I'm working with. I'm working with the modern day equivalent of the Ark of the Covenant.
Wow. Oh, very cool. Okay. And the Ark, I guess it's patented, presumably.
No, I don't have a patent. I don't have to. Nobody, unless God gives somebody wisdom, nobody's going to duplicate this. I don't need that to be coy once again.
No.
I'm not interested in money. This is not about money. All I'm interested in, I want to help. I want to advance mankind.
Love that.
And this is a gift from God.
100%. And how did that mission from God come about then?
I have infused knowledge. That's the best way for me to describe this. I have the ability to see an invention and then work upon it, or to understand theory, and without having to prove it. You see, one of the drawbacks of the scientific method, you have to prove everything. Well, what if you can prove it in advance by mysticism? What's the point here? The point is I don't have to rely upon science. I have to rely upon mysticism, which I believe the great scientist Tesla had. Tesla could see an invention before he invented it. That's a lot easier than working by trial and error. I see something before I realize it. I've perfected my approach in the past 3 months. I can already foresee what it's going to be.
And so do you see other iterations of the Ark, or do you feel like the Ark is?
There has to be, but there's a couple drawbacks. There's no money to be made in this. It takes so much time. How are you going to fund this operation? Are you willing to spend 20 years of research without a paycheck? That just goes on and on. There are hurdles right now. And, there's barriers to entry. Do you really want to go after this as a medical model? I don't. I don't want to challenge the medical establishment. This is not medicine. Working through a person's photograph is a new science of information. So I don't want to challenge the oil industry. I don't want to challenge the medical industry. No, those are monopolies. I frankly don't want to have anything to do with them. I want to start a new science, a new technology.
Yeah, fascinating. Well, I'm hoping that some philanthropist billionaire is going to, stumble across this, and they're going to, help you to see your dreams come true, because it feels like you obviously have a very strong mission, and it's very admirable. But was there a moment where you, when did you actually, because you said that you kind of foresee in your mind's eye, or, you get divine, I call them divine downloads or interventions, if you will. When did that happen? What was it that spurred that on?
I was a teenager and I was reading Tesla, and I understood Tesla. And when Tesla would say the sea of energy or radiant energy, and how he would tap into a star, notably our sun, I knew what he was referring to. He was no longer referring to anything that required resources, iron, coal, steel, call it what you will. He was tapping into the energy of the star, sun. Well, I said to myself, this is what he was trying to advance later in his life. But the powers that be, the money monopoly did not want that.
Yeah.
So that was the afflatus for me as a teenager. And throughout my life, I've had this infused knowledge, this gift of mysticism that's taken me step by step. God has a plan. And ultimately, the world is going to wake up that this is divine energy, that only God can produce the energy of the stars.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so we've talked about some of the benefits in terms of, healing from viruses and very serious viruses as well. What other benefits can the arc provide?
The energy seems to balance our chakras. I'm going to hold up a diagram. These are spinning vortices, 7 chakras. Well, people tell me after I work with them by way of a photograph that they're happy or that they feel composed. Some people say they've given up alcohol or drug addiction. Now, how does that happen? It happens through information, favorable information. If this energy can respin or recalibrate our 7 chakras, well, the upshot is people are happier, the depression is lifted, and you're removing some type of blockage, you're removing or correcting some type of incorrect chakra spin, in which people might have an affinity, a desire for illegal drugs or alcohol. So I've seen many people say that their mental health has advanced, improved significantly after a month or so of sessions. Now, that's entirely out of my hand. Why, Nicole? Because I am not a psychologist, and I don't pretend that I'm giving psychological advice or any type of mental counseling. The energy, the divine intelligence reprograms the mind, the psyche. And once again, going back to that state of information or divine intelligence, nothing can go wrong. If you work with an energy instrument, the energy instrument follows the laws of science. And those laws of science, if they correct our depression or a phobia or an addiction, well, all power to the energy.
Fascinating. Are there any downsides? And the one that I just thought of when you were showing the photographs, for example, could the machine, could the arc, could there be an issue? For example, let's say there was someone in that photograph who did not have any of the viruses, and their photograph is put with the virus. Yes. Could it unintentionally give that person that virus? Or yes. Like you just said, I think you've answered it in my mind, at least you've answered it saying that it's like divine in itself. So it wouldn't be creating negative, if you will. But I'm going to let you answer that.
No, that's a good point. It will not create negative. It's a divine energy. But secondly, you'd have to create a life form. I don't know how to create life. That's beyond my scope. So once again, the energy is flawless. It's divine energy. It can only do good. And the way this instrument is programmed, if there is a presence of a virus, it will eradicate the signal, the energy signal of the virus. But I can't create this.
Interesting. And so if we have skeptics that still are not convinced, I mean, it's this is very intriguing. And I love your mission. I think it's so beautiful what you're doing and the fact that you're really driven to help people. What would you say to a skeptic if they're still the Western, the science, cause and effect, and we need to test this? And what would you say to someone who's listening?
By all means, test it. I give away 15 days of free sessions on my website. That's one of the ways you can prove it. My predecessor, Hieronymus, who's the original inventor, received 3 patents for this instrument: British, Canadian, and the U.S. patent. So those 3 patent offices acknowledge that there's some type of self-emanation, some type of energy that comes from material substances, which is scalar energy. He proved that, at least to those 3 patent agencies. Is that proof? Well, that's the beginning of the scientific proof. But like any new science, we need participants. You can take my word, you can discount my word. Others need to get involved. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to advance these things. Yes, so much time and effort must be taken to either substantiate what I'm doing or debunking what I open the door. Anybody can start scalar energy research. I wish they would. I don't want to be one of the few researchers on the planet.
Yeah. Do you feel like in certain science communities, traditional Western sort of science communities, there is like an openness to this?
There's an openness, but there's still a lack of education. You have to study Tesla and Hieronymus. Why? Those two men had functioning instruments. So whatever they came across, they were able to substantiate by the laws of science. When you have a functioning instrument, it's no longer theory, it's practice. I have a functioning instrument. So this is not guesswork. When you have an engineered scalar energy instrument, you've mastered the science to some degree. There's many theories, but very few people who can prove it.
Yeah, right. And presumably, is it hard for one to build a scalar energy machine, like similar to what you've done, or is it just studying Tesla and the works and Hieronymus?
It's straightforward, but you have to realize it's not electricity. Electrical engineers have tried to take this up, and they realize that they're going to have to relearn or start from first grade, well, as I call it. It's a new science, and no hard feelings, but you have to start from the beginning. You might have to start from first grade in order to understand this new science.
Mm-hmm. So maybe people like me, like the non-scientists, would be better placed to learn it because we don't have that.
Yeah, you see, one of the problems with electrical engineers, they try to amalgamate the two energies. No, they're distinct. Leave them apart. Try not to combine the two. That's their undoing. This is not electricity. What am I saying, Nicole? There's two energy fields. Yes, electricity exists. Tesla was smart enough to realize that there were two energies. Later in his life, Tesla only worked with scalar energy. If you look closely at his inventions later in his life, there were no moving parts. Never. Why? Just like this instrument, there's no moving parts. The energy's from the stars. It's not from an induction motor. When you have AC current, you need a turbine, you need an induction motor, you need some type of movement. Tesla said the kinetic energy that he needs is from the stars. He's right. The induction motor is the star. The turbine, the armature is the star.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these instruments now are motionless. Just access the kinetic energy from the stars.
Wow. I mean, I don't know if this is just like, again, this is my lawyer hat on, so I don't know if this is like IP, but I'm just curious. I'm so curious about this. When you talked about the vacuum tube, right? That harness, that has the kinetic energy from the stars, right?
Correct. Right.
But is it infinite?
Yes, very good. Scalar energy is infinite. And that's why the infrastructure is infinite. If you have an infinite energy, you need an infinite infrastructure.
Got it.
And this is what Tesla really grabbed and really could understand. You don't need a power station anymore, nor do you need satellites or any delivery system. All of that's gone. The universe has given us free energy with a free infrastructure. Now, Imagine what that will do to the energy industry. The energy complex today is obsolete vis-a-vis this. It's obsolete.
Yeah. And so how do you, sorry, again, this is just a how to, but like, how does one harness that kinetic energy? Like, is there a procedure, a methodology, or is it like, is there a specific formula that Tesla says like A, B, C, D, E, and then you have harnessed?
Yeah. Tesla was able to harness this energy from the atmosphere. He's a little bit more advanced than me. What I've done is I've taken AC electrical current and converted it into scalar wave. You can take scalar, convert it back to electricity, or take electricity and upgrade it to scalar, showing that both energies are bidirectional conversion. Yeah. So they're distinct, but they still can convert one into the other. So the point is, we're still working with two branches of physics.
Yeah.
Now, If you can become master of both branches of physics, and Tesla and Hieronymus, my predecessors, were masters of both branches of physics, you're a true genius. And when these men developed these instruments from scratch, scratch, I copied them. So I don't have their engineering ability. These two men engineered these instruments from ground zero. That's true genius. That's true God-given ability. They were geniuses.
And what did another person we often look in science to as a genius is Einstein. Yes. He came after Tesla. Is that right?
They were contemporaries.
Contemporaries. So what did Einstein think of this?
Purportedly, Einstein said that Tesla was one of the smartest, if not the smartest man he ever met. Tesla did not agree with many of Einstein's theories. For instance, Tesla did not think that space could curve. And I agree with that. There's no curvature of space. Now, if it is curving, how does it curve? What direction? What magnitude? Anyway, long story short, Tesla did not agree with many of Einstein's theories.
Yeah. Oh, he did not. Tesla did not agree. Okay,
Tesla
gotcha.
did not.
Yeah.
Tesla didn't. He's in a league of his own.
Yeah.
And here's the proof, people. You could read a book on golf, but you've just read a book on golf. It doesn't mean you're a golfer. And the only way you know if you're a good golfer is to go out there and hit the ball. And in practice, let's see if you can hit the golf ball. Mm-hmm. Tesla, to his credit, had 300 inventions, 300 distinct inventions in his career. Was he an inventor? Yes. Did he invent? Yes. Were those instruments functioning? Yes. How many people can brag that they invented 300 instruments? Very, very few.
Yeah. Right.
So Tesla was not just reading a book on golf. He was able to hit the golf ball. Very few people can follow in his footsteps.
Yeah. Right. Well, so if we have listeners who want to start incorporating this into their daily lives, obviously that we know that, and you've mentioned already that you offer a 15-day trial, which is amazing. Is there anything that people can do even on their own?
Yes. Everybody on the planet is a scalar energy expert. Consider this: scalar energy transcends time and space. It's infinite. What do we have that transcends time and space? That's infinite. Our thoughts and our feelings. Anytime we think, it's a scalar wave. Anytime we feel, it's a scalar wave. Why? A scalar wave is, if you will, God said. A scalar wave, a thought wave, is something that cannot be impeded. I showed how a wooden board cannot impede scalar energy. A thought cannot be impeded by a wooden board. So what's the point? I want the audience to really think deep here. What transcends time and space that we control? Our thoughts, our emotions. What are we saying? Thinking, a thought form, is a scalar wave. Feeling, a form, an energy, is likewise a scalar wave. We are scalar energy beings. Mm-hmm. The human mind, the human heart are scalar instruments. Mm-hmm. And your mind and your heart far exceed my instrument capability. So I would encourage people to use your scalar mind, to use your scalar heart to your advantage.
Beautiful. And I feel like I've also heard you say that prayer, meditation, these things are very strong modalities, if you will, of scalar energy.
Which is a thought. A prayer is a scalar energy waveform.
Right.
We've seen many people who've overcome many obstacles through prayer or through positive thinking. Why? What's the animating force? Scalar energy. What's scalar energy? It's the information system that decides the final outcome. Why not work at the level of cause, scalar energy, and not at the level of effect? Why not work at the level of thought and feeling rather than at having to? That's where we're going. It's a first principle.
Yeah, I love it. Right. Well, I so appreciate you talking about this topic. Before we wrap up, we have and I just, again, I feel like we're going to have you back on because this is so fascinating, so interesting, lots more to learn and discuss. Before we wrap up, we have the EnvisionAir questionnaire, which is a fun feature of the podcast. We ask all our guests to participate. And it's just 3 questions that we ask you to reflect on your past, present, and future. So are you ready, Tom?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. So the first question, looking back at your past, what advice would you give your 15-year-old self?
Trust in God, trust in yourself.
Nice.
Focus on God, focus on yourself. Don't listen to other people. Don't let the negativity of the world influence you.
Beautiful. Great advice. Great advice. And if you, looking on your present, if you could have dinner with anyone in the world tonight, who would it be and why?
Maybe Tesla and Hieronymus when they were alive. I've never met them. But yeah, I would like to have dinner with either gentleman.
Yeah, I feel like that's a very good, that would be a very fruitful discussion.
Yes,
very fruitful.
I'd learn a lot.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, what's one goal you want to achieve in the next 5 years?
To light up a building, to light up a city. If I can light up a light bulb, I can illuminate a city. So mark my word.
Love it.
That's my goal. If you see me in the future lighting up a building in Florida, you know it's me.
Amazing. Well, you're gonna have to come back on at that point for sure. No doubt.
Okay. Invite me back. That's my goal.
Definitely. Cool. Well, I just want to say thank you again, Tom, for being on the EnvisionAir podcast. This has been an enlightening conversation. Enlightening is kind of a pun, but anyway, it has really been enlightening indeed. And I really appreciate learning about all of the potentials of scalar light has to heal our minds and bodies. So thank you again. And you have, as you mentioned already, but you have an offer for the listeners. So do you want to just tell them about this?
Yeah. Quickly, scalarlight.com is the website. Anybody can send an email us your photograph. We'll treat you for free for 15 days. You can send your family and your pets. Scalarlight.com, SCALAR, scalarlight.com. Visit the website.
Beautiful. Okay, well, I'm also going to put that in the show notes as well. And are you on social media?
I am, but just go to the website and on our homepage, you'll have all of our website media sites.
Perfect. Amazing. Right. Well, again, I just want to say thank you again, Tom. And we are sending you all lots of love and have a really wonderful day. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the EnvisionAir podcast. Make sure that you like and subscribe to this podcast so that you stay up to date on all of our new episodes.